I don't know about you, but I love starting off my day with eggs, sausage, and toast. I just tried Jones Dairy Farm's all-natural breakfast sausage, and it is delicious. They make premium crafted, all-natural meat, and 100% of products are made in the USA. And y'all, they have so many options: pork, chicken, turkey, or center-cut Canadian bacon. So check out their product finder on jonesdairyfarm.com to find out where to find Jones near you. Just off the Texas coast sits a unique beach town marked with salty vibes and sun-soaked memories. Port Aransas is a place where family traditions unfold naturally, and beauty lies both in island views and the unhurried moments between adventures. One visit, and you'll see why generations of Texans have anchored their traditions to the island life. Start your new favorite family tradition in Port Aransas, Texas. Go to visitportaransas.com and plan your visit to Austin's beach. The city of Austin is facing a $33 million budget deficit, which means some tough decisions have to be made on what gets funded and what gets slashed. But have you ever wondered how the city budget even works? Like, what is a city bond, or what does capital improvements even mean? Today on CityCast Austin, our city budget officer, Carrie Lang, breaks it all down to help us understand everything we need to know about our city's budget. It's Monday, June 2nd. I'm Nikki Devon, and this is what Austin's talking about. Hello, I am here today with Carrie Lang, City Budget Officer. Hi, Carrie. Thank you for being here with me.
Hello, I'm glad to be here.
So, okay, the city's budget gets voted on in August. Mm-hmm. And so now is the time when your proposals are getting more like battle tested and discussed. And I know this is like a really busy time for y'all. I always feel like, you know, we get a little bit of a break in the summer, but y'all don't get no break. And so
no, not at all.
At all. So using 3 words, how would you describe this time of year for you?
Crazy. It is a very, I guess, busy. If I'm just doing 3, crazy, busy, and I'm going to say purposeful.
Oh, yes. I like that. Yeah. So I have to ask you the $33 million question. So when the news broke that we're facing this enormous budget deficit, you are the first person I thought about. And it's so funny because I was like, oh yeah, Carrie gonna have to really upset some people, disappoint some people. So like, that's, you know, the deficit was not a surprise for you. And I know that. When did it become clear that we were really dealing with something, a big deficit like that?
My team and I, we really watch what sales tax is doing, right? So every time we get a new payment, we kind of look at how that compares to our assumptions. And so probably in February, and remember, sales tax is a lag, and so we're looking at, you know, getting a 2-month lag. So probably by February, we were like, "Oh, this is not looking the way we want it to look."
Yeah.
But you know, you also have to pay attention a lot to what is happening at the federal level, what's happening in the economy. So we kind of knew it was coming, but just seeing how sales tax was coming in made us start having conversations internally. Like, this isn't going to be another year where sales tax saves us as a city. It's going to be the realities that we've been talking about for the last several years. We just hadn't seen it yet. So probably around February, we were like, this is going to be interesting.
Oh man, that is just like, because I know that they were saying, you know, it's sales tax, it's alcohol, it's like alcohol beverage taxes. I mean, the sales were declining, commercial property values were declining. And I'm so curious about whether or not, like, when these things are happening, you're having to watch so much. So I know you're watching the sales tax, but then you have all these other balls that you have to keep an eye on too. So once you guys saw that the sales tax were declining, does it ping you to look at other things? Does it ping you to be like, okay, we should look at this. Why is this declining?
Yes and no. Yeah, the city, when we talk about the general fund, we have two major funding sources for the general fund. It's either property taxes or sales tax. Those are our two biggest revenue sources for the general fund. And so as we were looking at sales tax, and alcohol beverage sales tax is just a sub, piece of that. We know that because the economy was changing so much that we would have reduced revenue from those two. The levels is what we just we try to hone in on and see, is it going to be flat? Hopefully it stays flat. Hopefully we don't get a dip. And so that's what we kind of really focus on. In regards to property taxes, though, we have a lot of conversation with the appraisal district. So, of course, Travis Central Appraisal District is the largest portion of the city's revenue, but we have Hayes Appraisal District, we have Williamson County Appraisal District. So we have conversations with them, and Travis in particular gave us an early on heads up. They knew that values were going down. And so because values were going down, what would that mean for the city? Now, we have to be clear, though, that housing values going down doesn't necessarily change the property tax revenue because the city is held harmless. And so what happens is, as values go down, the tax rate that you see, we make adjustments to that tax rate to make sure we get the same amount of revenue from those property taxes. That's why you see the tax rate fluctuate back and forth partially each year.
Oh, okay.
Yes. The main thing is that as values go down, we can only, the main lever is our ability to only grow our property tax revenue up to 3.5% because of the state legislation rule that changed in 2019.
Right.
And so that 3.5% is the main lever of why we are seeing some of that deficit, because our expenses as a city grow faster than our revenue is growing.
Wow. And so it's not even about like, when you find out stuff like this, because I know sometimes when we're like, okay, so property values are declining. Why are they declining? What can we do about it? It sounds like that's not even something that's on your radar. It's like, okay, I see that this is happening. Awesome. Now I need I'm not going.
No, it is on our radar because this is property taxes is not easy to explain for people to understand. So I'm going to try to do this in a way. So as the property values decline, that does impact our roll. But like I said, we can adjust the rate. However, as property taxes decline, homeowners may still see an increase in their appraisal value, because you remember in 2020, 21, when everybody wanted to move to Austin. And the property values shot up because everybody wanted to have a house. And so we're seeing that normalize again and getting better to more. And homeowners have a 20% exemption. And so their values don't grow as much. So they may still see increases in their appraised value, even though their market value is going down. And so we do pay attention to those things. We pay a lot of attention to what new construction we have, because that is new properties that come on the road that we can then tax. Yeah. And so we look at those kinds of things to make sure we understand what's happening. As development slows, that impacts the new properties coming on. So all those elements go into our property tax calculations.
Well, I had no idea that you had to pay such close attention to all of that. That is wild. It's wild. That is wild that you have to know all of that and pay attention to that and then apply it to where it affects the city across the board. Is it expected to continue? Because I'm imagining that, I keep hearing that we are in a buyer's market right now, but I don't know anything about that. I don't own a house. Is this decline expected to continue?
I think commercial properties are having a more of a slowdown than residential, but residential has slowed down. However, the fluctuation that we see, we'll see a lot of it probably more on the commercial side. And thinking about development and how that's changing and how that's slowed down, that will have an impact as well on what new items come on a roll. I do think that we'll see a continued flattening for a little while based on conversations that my team has had with the appraisal districts. I don't think we'll get the big spikes that we've been getting. I think we're going to start leveling off and seeing what that does to our revenue.
Oof. Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, you're kind of blowing my mind right now because I just had no idea. So in terms of like the federal funding, we know that, you know, due to the current administration, a lot of people are taking a lot of blows. Is there one singular thing that we were expecting to get that we will not be getting that's causing like the biggest blowback?
So the city uses federal dollars across several departments, right? So we have a
Okay.
lot of grants that, that help in different services, maybe our capital programs. We have some capital grants. And so there are dollars that we're waiting to see, if they are going to come through for our capital projects. I think it's a $105 million grant for our Transportation Public Works Department that they're still waiting on. But our department that's most largely impacted is our public health department. Public health has $67.7 million of federal support for their operational programs. And right now of that, it's about 4.8 million that we are waiting to see whether or not those dollars will continue.
Wow.
So we're nearing the end of those grant periods. And so after the federal government said they were cutting all funding and then they came back and had to keep our funding, that was fine. But as these grant periods expire, we don't know whether or not the federal government is going to continue these programs. So we're really looking at about $4.8 million for public health programs and services that we are working really closely with our federal delegation and, watching really closely on what's happening.
Oh my God. So we're kind of in limbo.
Yes.
Trying to figure out, oh my gosh. Okay. I've read that the city is like trying to address ways that we could be getting more revenue. So we know the city has a ton of outstanding parking tickets, for example, and now they're planning to try to address that. And we've seen that in new short-term rental ordinance, we should see pretty big increases in fees paid for those. And so like, I'm curious if these kind of things work and you'll get to have some wiggle room. It'll, like with the incoming side of the budget, like, will this really be like, okay, yes, great, we have this. Okay, now we can put this here, or we can put that there, or does it work that way?
It does not work that.
Okay.
Not quite that way.
I knew it.
The reason I say that is because our fees for service for the general fund make up about 12% of our total revenue. And those fees for services in the general fund grow at about 1%. So even if we get
wow, okay,
all of the people who have traffic fines, even if we get there, we want it, like we want those dollars, but the impact that we'll have will not be as much as people may expect. Okay. And then you have to think about like short-term rental. That is part of our code department. That is not in the general fund. That's a separate fund.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And so it won't help the general fund. It will help code make sure that they are recouping the dollars needed to continue to provide that service or to provide that oversight. But it doesn't give the general fund any relief if we, whatever changes we make to the FTR fees and program.
Wow. Okay. That's really helpful because I keep hearing that rhetoric. I keep hearing like, oh, well, that's going to give us so much money. I forgot about that. It's a completely different place. What do former President Lyndon B. Johnson and the movie Jaws, yes, that Jaws, have in common? A new exhibit at the LBJ Presidential Library. Before he wrote Jaws, Peter Benchley was President Johnson's speechwriter, and this temporary exhibit is all about Benchley's journey from the White House to best-selling novelist to ocean conservationist. Talk about a fascinating career. Don't miss this chance to learn all about Benchley and Johnson's environmental legacy, how Jaws changed our understanding of sharks, and much more. From the White House to the deep ocean, LBJ, Jaws, and conservation will be at the LBJ Presidential Library from now through October 19th. Find out more about the exhibit at lbjlibrary.info/Jaws. I love going out to eat, but my budget does not always agree. The In-Kind app gives me 20% back in dining credit every time I dine out. Yeah, you heard that right. So that means every time I eat at a restaurant from the app, I get 20% credit for the next time. More money for dining out? Yeah, sign me up. Plus, the app helps me find new restaurants, bars, and cafes to try right here in Austin. And if you're traveling around the country, In-Kind has locations nationwide. Since you're a CityCast listener, we have an exclusive deal just for you. $25 off your bill of $50 or more at any location on the In-Kind app. To get your $25 off your next bill, go to inkind.vip/ATX. That's inkind.vip/ATX. I remember budget time being the time that it's like, okay, kind of like not Christmas, but I think but it was the time where everybody was like, okay, we need this and we need that and we need this and we need that. And I am imagining in my head now everybody is hyper aware that you better be very, 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 very specific and sure about what you need and what you're asking for. So I've always been curious how you and your team balance everyone's wants and needs. Like it seems like an impossible task. I've sat in those meetings. I've sat in those meetings and listened to people just like really, really be passionate about their thing that they need and they feel is the most important thing. So how do you guys make those tough decisions?
Well, the good thing is I'm not the only one making that decision. So it's not Carrie saying yes, no, yes, no. Um, but I tell everybody budgeting is an art, not a science. It is
Yeah.
not just looking at numbers and saying, okay, this is funny, that isn't funny. It is, we start budget kickoff with departments in January. And so when you think about how a budget is created, I guess the thing about the city is we have incremental budgeting. And so we take what is in the budget this year and say, unless something major happens, we're going to assume that council still wants to fund these things. So
Right.
what are the changes we need to make in the budget to move services forward, and if we need to add services? So we're not starting from scratch every year. The other part of that is we go through a process where even though we're not starting from scratch, we are looking at what services we're providing, and are there things that we need to make adjustments to? Is it something that we shouldn't fund anymore because of whatever reason? It's not giving the return that we thought, people aren't using it, whatever the case may be. And so we do that look, but also we have to make sure we listen to like our stakeholders, our community, our council. We listen to the boards and commissions. We ask them what are their priorities. And so we kind of take all this information and the whole staff, whether it's departments giving their recommendations, whether it's my team kind of honing in, making sure we have all the data to support it, whether it's the city manager who ultimately makes the call because this is his budget as the CEO of the city. We all kind of talk through what we're seeing, what we're experiencing, what things we can do better or more efficiently to craft the budget. It is something that we have to kind of go into and recognize that with the limited funds that we have, we can't fund everything. The city budget, even though it has a B behind it as billions, is very similar to your own budget.
Yeah.
You make so much money, you have so much income. And so you got to decide what the outcome is going to be for that. What are you going to do? You're going to pay your rent, you're going to pay, whatever your necessities are. And so we try to make sure we look at what are the priorities. Make sure we're doing what the core services are that the city should be doing. And then after we make sure we deal with those things, okay, what enhancements can we make? What things can we do better? How can we make sure our core services are better? And what does that look like? If we are funding everything, I think we get into scope creep. Like, what is the city's role? What is our lane? What should we be funding? Make sure we focus on that first, and then figuring out then what is the plus? What is the added things that we should be doing? It takes a lot of conversation. It takes a lot of, okay, that if we do that, we can be balanced this year, but then we're not going to be balanced next year. So what is the impact of those things?
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot of I didn't realize before I started working for the city honestly, just as a constituent, I had no idea how many people's hands were involved in the budget. I had no idea that there was boards of commissions and that constituents could come and talk. Like I had no idea the scope of it, the scope of
Mhm.
just like how many people, I won't say have a say, but definitely are invested in how the
Yeah.
city spends its money and where the city spends its money. And, someone explained it to me once that in a way that I thought was really brilliant, and it's really similar to what you just said. The city manager is kind of like, the head of the household, and the city is the house. And
Mhm.
each just like each child of the household has a job. The oldest might get this, the youngest might get this, the middle child might do this. Each department has say and has, I guess, ownership over
Mhm.
a part of how we figure out how to keep this house running. And for whatever reason, that analogy worked for me. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm an oldest sibling and I understand it, but it's like there really are lots of people and departments that have to be heard and considered. And to your point, like, what are we doing well? What could we be doing better? When you're having these conversations, like, how I'm imagining that it just changes constantly. It's just ever changing because you're finding out new information and you're having to adjust and you're having to, oh, we did not know that. Okay, so now we got to do this. At
Mhm.
what point do you guys stop and be like, okay, this is it. This is what we're working with. No more. Like, no more input. No more input.
So my team and I, we have to have a book, right? So we have to figure out all these
Yes.
things, and we have to deliver a budget document.
That gigantic, huge document.
That amazing,
It's
huge,
amazing.
full of information. Yes,
It's
a gigantic
amazing.
document.
It's amazing.
And so we need to have all of our answers by mid June if we need to get a document out by mid July.
Wow. That does not seem like enough time. I mean, 6 months does not seem like enough time.
You
Not even 6 months. Like, it just doesn't seem like enough time.
so I think what many people don't realize, and my team does because they live it, but after Memorial Day, the budget team is in the office every day until July 15th.
Wow.
Early on, it's every business day. And then as we get closer, it is literally Sunday through Saturday.
Every day.
So many hours in the office to make sure that this document is put together in a way that fully tells what we are doing as a city, not only just gives the numbers, but tells the stories behind the numbers and try to help people understand where their dollars are going. Because it's a really big deal for people to understand. Yes, we're charging these tax dollars, but this is what you're getting from it.
Oh my gosh.
Or fees. We're charging these fees and this is what you're getting from it.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
I want to talk a little bit about, I think a lot of people have questions about these big ticket items, the caps over interstate or over I-35. Council voted to approve like $104 million to support for the support structure for the caps and stitches, and then the expansion at Austin Airport. And so I want to know how/if these affect our future budget or deficit. Where are we getting 104 million? What's going on? So can you break down a little bit about just like how that works?
Yes. So Cap and Stitch or the I-35 expansion, that is a state project. They're going to do it whether the city does these
Yeah.
road elements or not. So that is happening. It's a state project. The road elements will allow for the city to potentially add what are called caps and amenities on top of that. And council's action allowed us to go into an agreement to do those things. Ultimately, part of those dollars will be paid for probably through a federal loan through our Transportation Public Works Department. And then the other element is through what are called GO bonds, or, well, they're bonds. So they're bond dollars that are contractual obligations that the city can used as a debt instrument to pay for this. What I don't think people understand, and hopefully this will help them, when we look at our tax rate, our property tax rate, it's made up of two elements: the operation and maintenance rate portion, and then the debt portion. And so every time the city goes out for a bond package or a bond program, that is increasing or making changes to the debt portion. Once the citizens approve a bond package or we go into debt, there is no changing of that. Once we spend the money, that part of the rate is dictated by how much money we've spent. The O&M rate is the part that has a 3.5% cap. And so O&M, operation and maintenance, that has a 3.5% cap. So when we talk about what we do to provide services year in and year out, that's the O&M rate. The debt rate is the portion to pay for whatever capital programs we're having. And so this portion of the road elements and potential use for cap and stitch will be part of that debt rate.
Okay.
That once we spend the money, that will change the portion of the debt rate that will have an impact on your overall tax rate.
Okay. So am I understanding this right? We'll spend the money first, and then after that money is spent, then things will change after.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, so it's not like, okay. That makes sense.
It's not like a loan where you get the money and then spend it. It is you spend the money as a city and then you sell the debt.
Oh, okay.
Or you issue it. Yeah.
That makes so much sense.
But the thing is, we had to commit to do it so that we can move forward with text back on that portion of the project.
Makes sense. So that whenever it starts, because it could be years, whenever it starts, it's already on the books. And okay, so you brought up something that I'm always fascinated by, and that's bonds. So we're having a bond election in 2026. Can you explain a little bit about what that is and what that means? And do we know what might be on it at this point?
So bonds are the debt that the city issues in order to do capital programs. And so we've done bonds for mobility to help with the street infrastructure. We've done bond packages that are comprehensive, that allows for us to build the Central Library or the Dove Springs Neighborhood Center, the animal shelter. And so we go to the voters to say, do you want to do these things? And it is capital related, it's debt related. And so once the voters approve it, based on when we finish those projects, when we spend those dollars, the debt rate changes for that. So we are looking at a 2026 bond. It is 2025. We don't fully know what's going to be in that package yet. It is a full process where we talk to, of course, departments, the professionals who are working through these requests. But we have the Bond Election Advisory Task Force is a commission that works through the recommendations and helps create what that bond package looks like. And so we are really in a space where departments and that task force is working through what the possibilities could be. How big of a package do we want to take to the voters? Our Capital Delivery Services Department and Financial Services Department lead those efforts to make sure that everything is vetted. We have the cost associated with it. We account for potential cost escalators as we look at the impacts of potential tariffs and all these things that can impact the cost. So we do an analysis to try to make sure that the packages that are put together are fully vetted and will allow for enough dollars to complete whatever project is put forward. And I'm not intimately involved in this, so I don't know the exact details, but I don't think we'll have those items identified or the package recommendation until early 2026.
And when we say that our constituents vote, it's essentially like we are saying, okay, we are agreeing that this needs to be paid for. How does that show up on our day-to-day? Does it show up in like our property taxes? Does it show up in our, Austin Energy bill maybe going up a little bit? It's all property taxes, right?
So bond packages are all GO bond packages are all property taxes.
That's what okay. So that's what you were talking about earlier.
Yes. Now, Austin Energy and Austin Water, our utilities and our enterprise departments, they do have a robust capital program. But you see that through, they'll do transfers, so their fees and all those things that they have, they use those dollars to create revenue and then transfer to their CIP program, capital improvement program. And so it's not the same as the bond packages that we get voter approval on.
Wow. Okay. This is the first time I've ever understood this. I thank you so, because for years I've been trying to figure out.
You never asked me, Nikki.
I know I should have asked you. I should have asked you because I have sat in so many meetings like, what are they talking about? That makes so much sense now. And again, it goes back to just like constituents having a say. You do have a say in how the money in the city is spent.
Yes.
And I don't think that everybody realizes that. Okay, so my last question. Our city council comes back after their short break, and you guys dive headfirst into the budget. I mean, like, it's just in August, it's just like days and days of budget. It's kind of incredible, honestly. Like, I think if anybody listening, if you're questioning how the city, whether or not the city really gets into it, you should come and sit in some of those meetings because it's kind of meticulous. It's days and days of it. And you can also, there's public hearing and all of the things. After all of that is done and the budget is adopted, then is there any break for your office? Is there any time where you guys can be like, whoo, high fives, y'all, we did it. We can breathe a sigh of relief? Or is it like, cool, that was awesome, let's get ready. Let's get prepared for the next budget?
Budget's approved mid-August, and we have to make sure that whatever was approved is in the system so that it can be ready for October.
Right.
And so there's still that work behind the scenes to make sure that the approved budget is then loaded in the system appropriately and captures any changes that were made so that departments can be ready October 1. So there may not be a August 15th after everybody breaks and is gone. But we do encourage the team, even in those first couple of weeks after, take a couple of days, go do a reset. We have to balance that because we have to get the approved document out. But then once we have the approved document and the system set up, go do whatever you need to do.
Yes.
I don't do a very good job at it, but my current boss and the previous budget director, Ed Venino, he's a CFO.
Shout out to Ed. He's awesome.
Shout out to Ed. He's one of the best bosses I've ever had. Every year, and he's done this since he's been here, I believe, and even before when he was in his previous role. He takes about a 3-week sabbatical where he goes and now, I would never do this. If I did a 3-week sabbatical, I'd be at a beach somewhere drinking some nice fruity drinks. But he goes and he hikes along whatever trail he chooses, and he goes out and just resets completely. I think that's amazing.
Wow.
I've had some team members who take pretty long vacations just because you need that reset so you can refresh yourself. And we encourage that. We encourage you, please go back and reconnect with your family. They didn't see you for 3 months. So we completely encourage that balance and allow for our team to take that break so that they can rejuvenate themselves. And then as we're working through those breaks that everyone's taking, we do start the initial planning and conversations on, okay, what could we have done better? What improvements can we make? And so the fall is really our time to start looking at projects and things we can do to better the next season.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I got to ask, is there anything that you want to add that we didn't discuss that I didn't think to ask you?
I really enjoy helping people understand the budget, right? I think it helps me do my job. It helps people understand why we do some of the things that we do. For me, I have the joy and pleasure of hearing from every side of the city. So when we go through budget and I do town halls and we're talking to everybody, I literally go to every district and the council member holds a town hall meeting. I get questions about what's in the budget. And I think the only thing that I really want people to understand is that your neighbors have thoughts and concerns that you may not even be thinking about.
Yeah.
And I feel like me and my team and the city manager, we're probably a small subset of the city that gets to hear from literally every area of the city to understand, okay, for this area, topic X, I'm not going to start saying topics so I'm going to get in trouble, but this may be more important. But that's something that's not important at all for this area, but this other thing is important. And trying to, one, help people understand that we are a large city. Austin is no longer a small college town. We are a big city with a lot of needs and a lot of competing priorities. And we are doing the best that we can as staff and professionals to lead the city in a way that we can sustain for the long term. I think that's the only thing that I think I want to make sure I convey to people. And I'm always happy to help people understand why we do the things we do.
And that's why I'm so glad that you are the budget officer. Carrie, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for being here and taking the time. I know you're busy, but you have really, really, really made this palatable and understandable. And I really appreciate that, because I feel like if I'm questioning it, then I know a lot of people are like, how does this work? What is happening? So thank you for taking the time. Thank you so much. I know this is not your thing.
Not, but that's okay. That's okay. You made it feel very comfortable and normal, so I'm okay.
You're so good at it. Thank you for being here. That's all for today here on CityCast Austin. You can find links to the city's budget in our show notes. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Austin newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye, y'all.